Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Monday edition of the show. We are starting a brand new week as the Bucs have a brand new opponent, which we'll talk about later on this week. But we are back to somewhat of a regular schedule as we talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as they have an interesting thing they have to address this week, as there are a number of players lobbying for the final roster spots of this team. So we're going to talk about a couple of players that are on the bubble, a couple of positions where we think there's going to be some good competition this last week, especially with the Dolphins coming in for who can really solidify a spot. And we'll also talk a little bit about what happened at practice today. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place of pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. And Scott, we are Rondé Barber days away from the Bucs hosting the Washington Commanders in week 1. I know we want to hit the fast forward button, but we do have to construct this Buccaneers team as well.
That's right. We do. And shout out to Liam Mitchell, who is one of our new interns at Pewter Report. If you haven't been enjoying his videos on Pewter Report TV, you're missing out, because he's been counting down the days with some of the greatest Buccaneer players to suit up making highlight videos for those players. And Matt, you and I both know there's 20 days left, because today's Rondé Barber Day. There's 20 days left before training camp, and there's a Rondé Barber highlight on Pewter Report TV. So make sure you check that out, as well as all of Liam's great highlight videos that he constructs. It's in our Bucs Vault section of the Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. So, yeah, a lot to kind of go over and discuss today for sure. It's, training camp's winding down. We get the Miami Dolphins coming into town Wednesday for one joint practice. And I believe that practice is going to be closed, too, because they took down all of the grandstand areas. I remember the Dolphins kind of invaded one Buccaneer place with their fans 2 years ago when they had a joint practice. And I think that kind of perturbed some of the Buccaneer players, coaches, personnel, and front office, to the point where this practice, I think, is going to be closed. If there are going to be fans in the stands, it'll be probably the team's corporate partners. But training camp is winding down this week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Wednesday. And then, of course, the game Friday will be the last chance for some of these players in the bubble to really have the opportunity to go out there and show what they can do.
Yeah, when we got to practice today, it was a little bit of like, man, like no more fans in the stands. So they do build out those bleachers year in and year out. But don't worry, Bucs fans, we are closer to the regular season, and of course, up until then, you can catch everything that happened at practice on pewterreport.com as we write up every single practice. Bailey Adams did a great job today. Scott, you hockey assisted on it as well. So make sure you check that out on pewterreport.com. We have a super chat to get to. And folks, you know our rule is super chat us. We get to it ASAP. So thank you to a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, Mark Fisher, a.k.a. Rev Fish. Awesome meeting him a week or two ago out at training camp, having a chat with him. And now he's on the show right now. So thanks for the $4.99 super chat, who says, Goedeke was a guard at first due to arm length. How's he overcome that to succeed at tackle? Or was the 34-inch rule of thumb overblown? Became a member, y'all. Yes, you have. And really good question, Rev Fish. What do you think, Scott?
He's overcome it. He's a nasty SOB. He's just tough, and he's got enough quickness in the feet. He's athletic. He's strong, and that inches do matter. Football is a game of inches, right? But at the same time, I think you can overcome that with good technique and with strength and football IQ. And Luke has all of those qualities. So if he has 33-inch arms and it's not the ideal 34, 35, 36-inch, whatever. He can overcome that. There's a lot of guys out there that have incredibly long arms that don't have good feet, right? Lorenz Metz is one of those guys, man.
Yes.
You've seen that now in a couple of preseason games and practices where he is 6'9" with a wingspan that rivals Anthony Nelson, the 6'7" outside linebacker. And he just doesn't have the footwork or the core strength to really become a good tackle. Luke Goedeke has those things. So if that's the only thing that he doesn't have, so be it. I think Luke Goedeke, I don't know if he's ever going to rise to the level of Pro Bowl caliber player, Matt, because I don't know that he is that elite athlete. But here's the thing. If you can get the penalties under control, DeMar Dotson was a 10-year starter in Tampa Bay, never made the Pro Bowl, right? But he was a good player that signed and re-signed with this team multiple times. And if Luke Goedeke can become that guy, I mean, Tampa Bay's got a pair of bookend offensive tackles for the long haul in Tristan Wirfs and Luke Goedeke.
That is very true. And I've never been a guy that kind of lives and dies by measurements for, especially after players are drafted. I get at the combine, there are some players that, if they have an egregiously slow 40 time or, certain things, then you kind of, cross them off your board. But in terms of Goedeke, I never thought, oh my God, he can't play tackle because his arms are a little bit shorter. I mean,
right.
if that's what you subscribe to, of just well, the measurements don't match up, he clearly has no chance, then I don't know, you need to do a little bit better. The measurements aren't everything. I'm all for analytics helping the game, but also open your eyes and watch the game and look at things and kind of make your own decisions on it. Don't just say, well, the rule of thumb goes by this or goes by that. For Goedeke specifically, maybe not Pro Bowl caliber, but that's fine. Not every single player that starts, not 22 starters on offense and defense are all, Pro Bowl caliber. And it's even tougher for offensive linemen. It's kind of a lot of it is reputation. And, thankfully Tristan Wirfs came in at the right time for the Buccaneers and has kind of built that really good reputation. So if Luke Goedeke never makes a Pro Bowl, that doesn't mean he had a bad career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And Marpet had one,
Yeah, exactly.
Should have gone more, but he only technically won with the one.
Considered one of the best offensive linemen in Bucs history. So I do think there is something important about kind of playing your natural position too. Not everybody has to. I mean, Graham Barton's doing it right now at the moment, playing center, and the Bucs do love kicking their tackles inside to play guard when they draft them at tackles in the draft. But I'm very excited for Luke Goedeke. I mean, obviously last year was a huge stepping stone, and now he can really solidify himself as the Bucs having two fantastic tackles on the end that can really dilute the significance of, Atlanta getting Matthew Judon or another team, kind of coming in and trying to rely on their pass rushers. It's a big year for Luke Goedeke.
It certainly is. It is. And it's a big year for a lot of these guys, whether they're going to make the Buccaneers or another roster, or if their football dreams are going to end in just a week's time, Matt, because roster cutdowns happen next week. And I believe it's Monday or Tuesday of next week. I've got to find the actual date. I don't have it handy. All these training camp days, man, they all just kind of roll together. For me, what is today? Today is August 19th. Wow. This training camp has just flown by. I mean, it just seems like it started yesterday. And then we were in Jacksonville last week.
Yeah. Really
appreciate all of you guys for reading our content, watching the videos, tuning into the podcast. We had an amazing week traffic-wise in Jacksonville last week. It was just Thursday that we hit 15,000 subscribers. Now we're already over 15,100 and on the way to 16,000. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Plus the super chats that just keep coming in.
Yes. You guys are a great fan base, a smart fan base, and fun as well. Very fun fan base between the jokes and between, just I think very productive Bucs conversation, NFL conversation. So let's keep it going with Todd Pittner. Thank you very much, Todd, for this $4.99 super chat. Who says, what's the car song? You may think I'm crazy, but Ramirez could have had 5 sacks if he didn't loaf on 2 plays, maybe 6 sacks. Watch the tape. He'll be a beast for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know a lot of you fans were fretting, groaning about Matt Judon going to the Falcons. And I wrote about that on my SR's Fab 5. We talked about it, Matt, on the Pewter Insider Show, our first Pewter Insider Show on Friday for our Pewter Premier and Platinum members that got a chance to see that. I'm not terribly concerned right now about the depth at outside linebacker, and the team isn't either. They're not panicking. And remember, the Judon signing went down on Thursday. or I should say the trade to Atlanta from New England went down on
Yes.
Thursday. And what happened on Saturday night, we saw 5 sacks, right? 3 from Marquise, or I should say three from Jose Ramirez, 1 from Marquise Watts, who was just beaten out for a sack by Jose Ramirez on the third one. And on the first one, Ramirez gets there because he cleanly beat the guard, who was kind of in no man's land because of a pressure package. Chris Braswell was half a step away from getting his first sack, right? And those are the kind of sacks you like to see when the pocket collapses, when it's not just one guy beating his guy one-on-one, but a multitude of players getting to the quarterback. Matter of fact, on Ramirez's third sack of the night, not only did Ramirez beat Marquise Watts to the sack, he also beat Vi Jones to the sack. Vi Jones should have had a sack. The inside linebacker who came in scot-free and just went high and whiffed on the sack of Mac Jones, who ducked under the sack and then picked up a couple yards on a run. So, yeah, I mean, I think this unit's going to be okay. These are young players. They need time to grow. They need time to improve and get better. And I'd rather invest in a young talent than an old aging one in a 32-year-old player like Matt Judon coming off of an injury. Maybe Matt Judon proves me wrong and has 10, 12 sacks this year for the Falcons, and hope not against the Buccaneers. But the long-term value proposition is in a guy like Jose Ramirez. It's in a guy like Marquise Watts. It's in a guy like Chris Braswell, who's just scratching the surface as a second-round pick, man.
Yeah, and Jose Ramirez, he was in the backfield a couple of more times too. So, there was that opportunity as Todd was talking about. And, for the Judon move, I am certainly not downplaying it for Atlanta by any means. I just think it's more of a win for Atlanta than it is the Bucs losing out on getting an edge rusher like
that. Is a fantastic bit of analysis, man. I agree with you 1,000%. Well said.
Thank you. Yeah, because Atlanta clearly upgraded at the edge rusher position, which many of us have talked about is or was one of the, maybe blind spots or biggest issues for Atlanta's defense specifically. Yeah. But again, now Judon
they don't have a Yaya Diaby, man.
So that's exactly my next point, Scott, is Judon is now Atlanta's best pass rusher. So I don't know why we're comparing Judon as much to Ramirez and Braswell and, Marquise Watts as we should be comparing Matthew Judon to Yaya Diaby in terms of which player would you rather have in that aspect of it. And, Yaya's only been there for one season. If we're talking about fully healthy and, Judon in his prime versus a current Yaya Diaby minus the ankle injuries going through, I'm probably taking Judon. But we have to put into consideration he's going to be 32. He's coming off of an injury, and Yaya's only going into year 2. So I think the comparison should be more about Judon versus Yaya and who gets the most production from their top pass rusher this year than some of the other guys, for sure. Thank you to McCoy Shedden for this $4.99 super chat, who says, shout out Elijah Klein, putting in that work. Him versus Mason Smith was a good matchup to watch. Eli is showing his versatility. He certainly did.
Yep.
Like the video. Yes, thank you for that reminder as well. Please leave a thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with Elijah Klein, and it was interesting after the game, Matt, you and I were in the locker room along with Adam Slavan. We got a chance to talk to Elijah Klein, and he was awful proud of himself, and he should have been. I mean, holy smokes, to play your first game ever at the college or pro level at right tackle and get a start at that position too, due to the injury to Justin Schooley was impressive. And I thought he performed pretty well in that aspect. And you know what they say about being a backup, the more you can do, the better in terms of your stock with the team, in terms of your versatility and your level of importance. And I thought it was a great showing by him. Listen, nobody would have faulted him if he would have gone out there and, gotten his ass kicked and given up a couple of plays and a couple of sacks or whatever. Because then you sit there and say, okay, fine, he's a guard, right? He's not a tackle.
Yeah.
He's a guard. That's why they drafted him as a guard. That's why he played guard at UTEP. But the fact that didn't happen, the fact that he held his own and then some, because he didn't have one single practice at right tackle or left tackle. He's only played guard. And so to me, that speaks volumes about how impressive that was to be able to be told the night before the game, hey, we need you because Schooley's not playing. We need you to play some right tackle. Can you go out there and do it? And then the kid says, yeah, sure, why not? And he goes out there and fares well. And then he moves inside to guard and fares well there. And then another series later, kicks back out to right tackle and fares well there, and then finished the game of guard. So I thought Elijah Klein was one of the more outstanding players on Saturday night.
Right. Seeing Elijah Klein start the game at offensive tackle was surprising, but not necessarily shocking. It's like, oh, okay, they're trying to give him more opportunities. But then when you think about that, we're at training camp every day and we didn't see him play offensive tackle once.
Right.
And then he tells us after the game, oh, yeah, they told me the night before I'm going to play offensive tackle. I have not taken a snap at tackle since the Bucs drafted me. That is shocking. And it just shows how much Elijah Klein loves to play football, because he looked elated after the game. I mean, there's only a couple of guys that when they're doing an interview, like truly are like beaming with a smile. Antoine Winfield Jr. certainly is one of them.
Right.
Tristan Wirfs is to a degree. He looks just so happy to be there. He's like, I love playing tackle. It's awesome. It's fun.
He is a football player. You love him.
Yeah, he's all about football. And yeah, for him to do what he did without, being manhandled by any means, which I think we all would have understood considering he had never played offensive tackle before. I mean, he looked better than Lorenz Metz. He looked better than Brandon Walton.
Yes.
And that's a heck of a start for Elijah Klein. And, that's going to earn you brownie points and, a thumbs up and a gold star and a check mark for the Bucs front office and the, and obviously the coaching staff as well. Want to get to this real quick from JB, who is a Pewter Report channel member as well. What's going on with JTS? JTS actually practiced a little bit more today. He did practice in 11-on-11s, was able to go up against, the offensive tackles and use a little physicality. One play, he had to drop back in coverage and guard Chris Godwin. That's a rough way to get him back into the mix. But, good to see JTS progressing, and it looks like, especially after talking to Todd Bowles, that he'll be ready for the start of the regular season, which is a good sign.
We got a couple new Pewter Report TV channel members over the weekend. Want to thank Leighton Carter, John Hartwig, Furu Kawab, Buddy Hill, Guru, and Lucas Patisse for signing up to become Pewter Report TV channel members. Greatly appreciate that. We also want to give a special shout out to our Pewter Platinum channel members, Guru, Scott Federico, and Performance 2. Greatly appreciate your level of support as well. And we also got a lot of Pewter Premium channel members. We're going to be rolling those through here because there's just too many to name, but we're going to put you up here and have your name on this particular podcast here as we have literally too many even for one ticker. So Matt, it's 420, and you know what happens on Mondays at 420. It's probably, aside from game day, maybe our favorite day of the week, because we do this little thing on Mondays at 420. If you're a regular Pewter Report podcast viewer, listener, you know it. It's called
Roll Call. That's right. We do it every Monday or first episode of the week, because sometimes we got to mix things around. But it's a great way for us to interact with all the Pewter people, all of our fans that watch the show, which we cannot thank you guys and gals enough for joining us pretty much day in and day out. So the way we do this is one of us goes on a little rant or diatribe about the Buccaneers. Today, I'm going to be talking about your favorite football team. And in the meantime, if you want to start putting the location of where you're watching from in the comments, we will put it on the screen and give a special shout out to a couple fans as well. So Scott can start doing that. I want to talk about some areas, some issues, I guess I will say, as roster cuts come about. Like, where do I worry the most about the Bucs and their depth in their secondary specifically? Because we were talking to Todd Bowles today, and Bowles kind of asked the question. It was like, is this the deepest roster you've ever had? And he goes, no, absolutely not. And it got me. I was actually thinking about this before we spoke to Bowles, but there's no time like the president. Of course, Bowles answered it, and then it got me thinking a little bit more. And initially my thought process was that defensive back after Zion and Jamel Dean and of course Bryce Hall. I'm thinking like defensive back. What does Tampa Bay exactly have there? What's the level of concern when you see a unit go out there on Saturday night against the Jacksonville Jaguars? And the Bucs did get pressure. We talked about the 5 sacks and the big night from Jose Ramirez and Marquise Watts being involved as well. And yeah, they probably should have got some more pressure, on those plays where they allowed 3rd and 17 and 3rd and 15. But at some point, the secondary has to go and make a play as well. And they did not make any plays in joint training camp practice. Honestly, the secondary looks better going up against their own teammates than they have, in either game, except for Keenan Isaac making a nice play against the Bengals. And I'm starting to think it may be worrisome for the Bucs in that secondary, after Zion, Jamel Dean, and Bryce Hall, because we know the injury history of Jamel Dean. If something happens to either Zion McCollum or Bryce Hall, who's the next guy to step up? Tyreek Funderburk is in a boot right now. He's not coming back anytime soon. At least it doesn't look like. Rashad Wisdom got beaten pretty bad, in the joint training camp practices. Didn't look too great. Isaac probably would be the next man up just based on his ability to intercept the football. But some of these other names, honestly, like Josh Hayes, who had a pass breakup today, but Josh Hayes has not really looked too good. Andrew Hayes had the forced fumble, but that was about it as far as, training camp goes. Hasn't really stood out by any means. So I think there are some legitimate concerns about further down the depth chart, and I guess you could say that about a lot of teams. But going further down the depth chart, I do worry a little bit for the Bucs in the secondary. And we saw Stephon Gilmore obviously get signed to the Minnesota Vikings. I think cornerback might be a position, and we got to see how it plays out. There are roster cuts across the league, and maybe the Bucs can pick someone up. I think another veteran player, even someone that's been in the league longer than Jamel Dean, who you're not expected to rely on, but you may want to, get a spot start in if there's other injuries. I think a veteran addition at that position specifically may do the Bucs a little bit better than some other positions out there. So just something I want to bring attention to Bucs fans.
No, I think you're right. If there is an injury, then all of a sudden, like it gets a little worrisome. Josh Hayes, love the guy. Ema, he's a wildcat, but he's Ryan Smith 2.0 as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he did have a nice pass breakup today in practice. I don't want to besmirch his name. I just haven't seen enough of him as a cornerback in the preseason games to where I feel comfortable putting him out there with the starters on defense, right, if there's an injury. So to me, he's a great special teams guy. Ryan Smith was that guy. Ryan Smith was a stud special teamer. Same with Corey Ivy back in the day for you, longtime Bucs fans back in Super Bowl 37. But, I'm with you. I think Keenan Isaac right now should be cornerback 4, in my opinion, Matt. And I think you shared that same view. Matter of fact, we were watching practice today, and we saw the second team out there. It was still Bryce Hall. It was still Josh Hayes. So obviously the coaching staff still has Hayes as a second teamer. I'm with you. I think Keenan Isaac probably deserves that spot over Josh Hayes at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that has to be the case. I mean, the big thing with Isaac last year was getting burned too much and just allowing huge, gigantic plays. But he's cleaned that up. I mean, he's certainly not perfect. That's why he's not even in the top 3 at corners. But he's cleaned up just getting absolutely annihilated, I would say. And then he's still taking the football away. He has 1 or 2 in training camp. He had the interception against the Bengals in the first preseason game. I mean, he's making plays when some of the other corners haven't as much. I mean, Funderburk probably would be cornerback 4 if he didn't get injured. But
I would agree.
He is injured. You can only go with, who's available. So, and I thought it was that, 'cause I asked Todd Bowles about, some other positions that, may be more difficult to come to a decision on when it comes to roster cuts, because he had mentioned outside linebacker the day before. And I don't recall him mentioning the defensive backs. I know he talked about the D-line, offensive line, the running back rotation, and tight ends. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he did not mention the cornerbacks either.
I agree. Yep. We had a great turnout for roll call, which we always do. Mondays are special shows, at least in my book. I don't want to speak for Matt, but I'm sure he feels the same way. Just want to give a shout out to not just our Pewter Report TV channel members, but also those participating here from around the country and around the world, which is cool to see. So it's hot down here in Florida still. So we have some of those Floridians like Nathan Elliott from Bradenton, Florida, who are busy joining us as well. But we also have got some people that are from up north, so where it's a little cooler, like Tyler Lovell in Williston, North Dakota. Thanks so much for checking us out live for sure. And we also have a couple way up north in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. Matt is up there watching the show. We greatly appreciate that, Matt. Emily Compa from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Probably a little bit cooler up there than it is down here. And Bill Vincent escaping the Florida heat in Manchester, New Hampshire. So you people up there in the Northeast, probably a little cooler than it is down here. And we also have got some more international visitors as well. Adam Davies, as always, South Wales, UK. Greatly appreciate you tuning into the show. And let's see, Brisbane, Australia, Nicholas Curry. Thank you so much. I'm not sure what time it is there. I think it's like, middle of the night or something like that? Yeah. So greatly appreciate your support and you tuning in as well. We've got a couple of folks that probably need to get together and watch some Buccaneers from the Nassau, Bahamas, Jacko Bluntly and Rawl Springer, or maybe it's Raleigh Springer. So greatly appreciate you all tuning in from the Nassau, Bahamas. I love vacation in the Bahamas. I've been there 3 times in my life, a couple cruise vacations. That's awful fun. And also the Tampa Bay Bucks cruise will be going to Bimini, Bahamas too. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. So that's pretty cool. And let's see. Let's finish up with a couple of folks here in the Tampa area. Tony Kana from near Dale Mabry and Kennedy Boulevard. That's pretty darn close.
Yeah, very close.
And Jeremy, I always says, Tampa, Florida, happy birthday, Bucky Irving. It is Bucky Irving's birthday today. It's pretty cool. A couple of folks from my home state, Sacktown, Pewter Report TV channel member, Wichita, Kansas, Christopher Oxentine from Overland Park, my old stomping grounds, sending my wife dirty memes while she's at work. That's always a good time. And last but not least, Shaggy, Pewter Report TV channel member, Illinois, Simeon Rice for Hall of Fame. That's right. He was a Fighting Illini great. And then one more from my neck of the woods up here, Yees from Wesley Chapel. So thank you all for tuning in to today's roll call. We greatly appreciate it. It's always fun hearing about where you guys are from and watching the show. It's fantastic, and we greatly appreciate it. We do have a couple more super chats, Matt.
Yes, we do. Let's start it off with Cuse, number 44, talking about their favorite Buccaneers player. Thank you for the $2 super chat, who says, feed number 44 with the orange emoji as well. Obviously talking about running back Sean Tucker, who played for Syracuse, and Syracuse is famously known as the Orange. We actually talked about Syracuse a fair amount when we were in Jacksonville. We were talking about James Brown, Donovan McNabb, the movie, Ernest something. Was it Ernie Brown? Anyway, the Syracuse movie about the running back as well. That was a really enjoyable movie. I remember when I was watching a kid. But yeah, Sean Tucker, 2 good games in a row. And I had written before the first his preseason game that he's going to have a really good preseason if he wants to make this team. And very quickly, he's kind of went from a fringe roster player, maybe even fringe practice squad guy, to really giving the Bucs no other choice but to put him on the team just based on Chase Edmonds still not practicing. And I think Tucker is far ahead of the other 2 running backs, the undrafted free agents, including DJ Williams and Ramon Jefferson. He's way ahead of them. So I think Sean Tucker's going to make this team. I got asked this morning on the Pat and Aaron show if the Bucs have a 3-headed monster at running back. I'm not ready to go that far just yet. But Sean Tucker, I think, is really improving. And Scott, I think the biggest thing for Sean Tucker specifically is, can he pass block? Can he be a factor in that area? Because he's got the running down. so far. And he did run well last preseason. He's running even better this preseason, but it's that last part in the passing game that will kind of really decide whether or not he makes this roster.
You're right. And I think the biggest thing too with Tucker is when it comes to pass protection, it's really three things. It's number one, it's identification. Are you IDing the right guy? Right? Because that's key, especially when you talk about sometimes the center and the quarterback will make a line adjustment. They'll slide protection right, slide protection left, etc. So you got to be able to pick up on that. And your role, your job might change depending on if there is a slide protection going on. So number one, it's ID the right guy. Pick up the guy you're supposed to pick up. Number two, it's technique. It's make sure that you use the technique. And I'll tell you this right now, that's an area where Sean Tucker needs some work still. Number three, it's want to, right? It's some guys come in the league and say, I was a running back in college, give me the ball, I want to tote the rock, etc., or throw me the ball out of the backfield. But in the NFL, the money position is not the running back. This isn't 1980 anymore. It's the quarterback position. And you got to be able to protect that quarterback. Otherwise, you're not going to see the field. And that's why Ronald Jones lost his job quickly as starting running back, because he was terrible in pass protection. He could run it, he could catch it, but he get the quarterback killed. So those are the three things that you need to really do in that order. ID the right guy, have the right technique to be able to block, and then have the want to, that dog in you to be able to do that. Warwick Dunn at 178 pounds was pound for pound one of the best pass protectors I've ever seen in my life. He basically would put his helmet in your groin, in your thighs, in your knees, and go low and chop you down. And that prevented linebackers from coming in on those blitzes in the A gap, or cornerbacks or safeties coming off the edge on a slot blitz, because they simply did not want to have their have their knees taken out, or maybe get a trip to Bangkok. So they just avoided work done, and maybe came in a little slow and didn't want Dunn to just take him out. And so that's the thing for Sean Tucker. Great running back, good hands, but he's got to be able to pass protect to see the field a little bit more often.
That is correct. Let's stick with the running backs. We got a super chat of $1.99 from Diesel Richey. Thank you very much, Diesel, for this comment that says, any truth to Rachaad White likely losing running back one? What'd I miss? I don't think Rachaad White's in a spot of losing running back one just yet, or at least, at the beginning of this season. Bucky Irving's looked really good, but Rachaad White hasn't played yet because he is the starter. Yeah. However, I floated this idea out. I was chatting with Bailey Adams of PewterReport.com a little bit earlier today, and Bailey's going to be on with me for the show tomorrow. I would not be shocked if Rachaad White continues to develop this caliber or style of player where he's kind of like the Bucs version of Alvin Kamara, where he's like more of a factor, just, getting short passes to him and taking them up the field. And that's kind of like a run play for the Buccaneers specifically, or just being a huge presence in the passing game. And Bucky Irving's the one that's really kind of dominating in the ground game, I should say. I'm not taking anything away from Rachaad White. I think he's going to have a good year. It's hard not to fall in love with what Bucky is doing right now. And Rachaad, because we haven't seen him, in a game-like setting, I think Rachaad may start reminding people what he's about if he does get in for this preseason game against Miami.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. The thing I'll say to your point there is, we've talked to Liam Cohen, and he has said publicly that he wants his running backs to be shot out of a cannon, to hit the hole with a sense of urgency, to become an urgent runner. That's what Bucky Irving is. He does not juke. He does not dance. He hits the hole, and then if he's going to juke, it's going to be at the second level, right? It's going to be through the hole, to the hole and through the hole. Those are the words of Liam Cohen. And I think that's really what he wants to see. And Sean Tucker is the same way. Sean Tucker is a very fast, urgent runner, fastest running back on the team. So it's just a matter of, when you see Rachaad White, is he going to be out there hitting the hole with authority and being that quick back to the hole, to and through the hole, he was that guy at the end of last year. He was not that guy at the beginning of the year. So we'll see if Rashad can pick up where he left off. And I haven't noticed any detriment to his game in practice. He seems like
Correct.
he is much more comfortable in year 2 as the starting running back than he even was this time last year. So I don't think that right off the bat, Rashad White has done anything to lose the starting job. He will be the starting running back. Now, it's up to him to keep it.
I will say, sometimes watching Bucky Irving hit the hole and get to that second level, his running style, it almost looks like as if he had just drank a Celsius energy drink
Yes.
before going and reaching that second level. Of course, Celsius is the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. There's tons of great flavors, including the Galaxy, Cosmic, and Astro Vibe. I love the Arctic Vibe as well. If you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, go to the Celsius store locator on their website. You can punch in your address and it'll tell you the closest location where you can pick up a Celsius. It could be a Walmart, a Piggly Wiggly, a Wallbounds, a King Cullen, a Publix, or your bodega.
Bodega.
And want to keep going to your bodega, and you know you love Celsius and you want more, you want to buy it in bulk, you can purchase it in bulk over on Amazon. Click on the subscribe and save, and you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drinks of PewterReport.com. Got a couple more super chats to get to, so without further ado, thanks to Rev Fish, second super chat of the day, this one $1.99, who says, has the door closed on Cameron Johnson, number 9, due to injury? Actually, no. And we've gotten an update from Todd Bowles today that he is on track to play against the Miami Dolphins when the Bucs host Miami on Friday night. So Cameron Johnson was out for about a week. He returned after the Bengals game when the Bucs had practice on Monday, but he was in a non-contact jersey. He was there for the joint training camp practices against the Jaguars, but on Saturday, he put on his shoulder pads and helmet and everything. He caught some punts and warmups, but did not play in the game. And then Todd Bowles said after that he was not cleared for the game, just for practice at this point. But now it looks like, today he practiced without that non-contact jersey, so he can get hit again. He has been dealing with a rib injury. It looks like he's going to practice in full this week. Obviously, going up against Miami will be big, and then the game as well on Friday night. So the door is not closed on Cameron Johnson. And if he can finally get in a live game and do something, I mean, obviously it'll help his chances, but he may have a shot at, squeaking onto this roster, even with the injury time hurting him. But he's a very exciting guy. I was sad that he didn't get in the game against Jacksonville. So the door is not closed. And in fact, I wouldn't say it's wide open, but it's more open than it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And we're going to get to that in just a minute here as we look at our depth charts and the spots that are available, right? The open roster spots that have yet to be claimed, and we're going to get into that. We appreciate the super chat here from McCoy Shedden. $1.99 super chat. You guys think Eli solidifies his roster spot? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in just 1 second. A couple more super chats to get to, and we're going to put those graphics up, and we'll tell you what we believe right now in terms of who's made the team and how many open spots there are. Gaming Reaper, $4.99 super chat. Pewter Report is the ish. Thanks for all you guys do. LFG Bucs. We appreciate that very much, Gaming Reaper.
Thank you, Gaming Reaper. Thanks for the kind words.
Yep. Folks, we've had a very cool first 2 weeks of Pewter Report channel members. If you want to take your support for Pewter Report to the next level, we ask that you become a channel member. We've got over 30 channel members right now of different various levels. So find the right membership level that's right for you. And if you're so inclined, please support our efforts here. There's a Pewter People membership, which is $3.99 a month. The Pewter Pro membership, both of those have loyalty badges, custom emojis, and then with the Pewter Pro member, you get early access to videos. We've launched a couple of videos early, such as the highlight videos from Saturday night's game. So if you are a Pewter Report channel member, make sure that you turn the notifications on.
Yes.
That's going to let you know when those videos are available to you first and before they go out live to the public. And It'll also let you know when we start our Pewter Insider, which will again be at 11 o'clock this Friday, but we might adjust the time depending on what practice time Todd Bowles has on Fridays. But that's also going to alert you to when we go live on Fridays for our Pewter Insider video. And that happens for our Pewter Premier and Pewter Platinum members. So again, all you have to do is hit the join button, or you can click on the link in the video description and learn more about becoming a Pewter Report channel member.
Yeah, and again, please make sure you put the notifications on, because we're gonna start sending some more messages in the message board too about times that work best for everybody for these private videos and the Q&As and things like that. So put the notification on. Let's keep the super chats going. Thank you to LDBC's Most Wanted with this $4.99 super chat. Says Saludos, Pewter Report. What chances do you give Klein to start at left guard? Would be neat to have a young O-line. Klein, Wirfs, Luke, Graham, and Malk, given their average age as well. Yeah, Bredeson's younger than people think as well, too.
Yeah, and I've been impressed with Ben Bredesen so far. I think he is a step above Matt Filer and Aaron Stinney from a year ago. He's a bigger guy, 6'4", 315 pounds, Matt. He's got some size to him.
Yeah.
And I don't know how big of a step. We'll see once we see some better competition. Remember, he's been starting these last two games, but mostly against backup players in Cincinnati and also Jacksonville. So we'll see how he fares against the Dolphins. But I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far. I think Elijah Klein needs a year in the weight room, right? To go from college to the NFL. We've seen Cody Malcolm make huge strides, right, Matt, from year one to year two in the weight room, coming from North Dakota State, which is a smaller school, to the NFL. It's a big leap, much like UTEP to the NFL, big leap. So I think he has a chance to threaten for that starting left guard spot next year. I'm not saying he can't do it this year, but I think there'd have to be an injury to Ben Bredesen, or Bredesen would just have to completely fall apart at that left guard spot. I think he's done pretty well so far, though. He was going to beat out Sua Opeta, if not, for Sua Opeta's injury. I still think that he would have beaten him out.
Yeah, Klein is developing at a good pace, but I'm not ready to insert him in the starting lineup. He may have to eventually if there is an injury, but I think that was kind of the plan all along. Klein can very much go the Alex Kappa route, and there's no shame or there's no issue with him going the Alex Kappa route of not starting right away, but eventually getting in there. I do agree. Bredesen would really have to fall flat for Klein to get some consideration, unless Klein has 15 pancakes in Friday night's preseason game.
Yeah. Kyle Miller with the $4.99 super chat here, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle, for this $4.99 super chat, who says, should we really be worried about the Bates-Simmons duo in Atlanta with the wide receiver talent that we have? Lots of bandwagoning around Atlanta before the regular season.
I think Justin Simmons is still a good player. I don't know that he is the player he was a couple of years ago. I think there's been some drop off there. That's why he's lasted so long in free agency. Usually good players get gobbled up pretty quickly. So, but Jesse Bates is a stud. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is the best safety in the division. Jesse Bates is right behind him, in my opinion. So that is a good 1-2 punch. Is it as good as Winfield and Whitehead? I don't think so, but they've certainly got better. To Matt's point earlier, the Falcons got better with Matt Judon filling in a position of need, which is that edge rusher, that consistent guy that is a name player that can produce results. Now, is it going to be 6 or 8 sacks for Judon this year, or is it going to be 10 to 12? Well, we'll see. But Simmons is a ball hawk. Now they've got another guy, and Jesse Bates is also a ball hawk. So that does present some problems from a ball hawking standpoint. Baker Mayfield did a very good job of avoiding Jesse Bates in coverage. Now it's a little bit harder to do that because now you got 2 guys back there deep that you have to be concerned about if you're Baker Mayfield. So I think the Falcons did get better. I still like the diversity of this offense. And Matt, we've seen the Buccaneers not really attack the Falcons too deep, especially when they have those safeties deep back there in a cover 2. But we've also seen a lot of mesh routes, a lot of underneath crossers to get the ball in the hands of these wide receivers with some space in front of them to move. So you might not see Baker Mayfield challenge these guys deep because of the ball hawking nature of Bates and Simmons, but doesn't mean the Buccaneers still can't attack them in the passing game. It just might be more intermediate and underneath routes, picking up the chains and more of like a move the chains type of offensive attack than a deep shot, big play passing game.
I do think it's more of Baker Mayfield versus Atlanta safeties than necessarily Mike, Chris, and Jalen McMillan.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the receivers, I'm going to take Mike Evans over almost anyone,
right,
throughout the whole season, and Mike and Chris as well versus a number of defensive backs. And we've seen so far, especially in the joint training camp against the Jaguars, I mean, Baker has been money with Mike Evans and the 15-yard mesh cross around. And if the Bucs want to hit that all day and Mike Evans gets 20 receptions for 198 yards, then so be it. The highlight reel won't be as fascinating as a couple of years past, but if the Bucs are scoring 30 points and they're winning games and they're beating Atlanta specifically, winning is the most exciting highlight reel that anybody can have.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And if you're looking for some highlights from the Pewter Report podcast, or maybe just to catch the podcast, or to read our Pewter Report content, you can do that at Autograph. It's a new app that's available on the Apple App Store or on Google Play if you have an Android. And Autograph Fandom Rewarded is a free app that you can use to read all of our Pewter Report news, watch all of our Pewter Report videos and podcasts. And when you do so, you actually earn points. And you can redeem those points for tickets to sporting events or merchandise. And so you get rewarded for reading our content. That seems pretty cool, right? Yeah. All you have to do is use promo code Pewter to sign up, download the app on either Android or Apple, and it's free. If you've heard of Autograph, that's right. It's co-founded by Bucs legend Tom Brady. He also played for the Patriots too. Might have heard about him from them. And he has the belief that the devotion fandom should be rewarded, and the future of fandom belongs to the fans. So it's a great, easy to use, navigate app. You can also find other content from other media outlets about the Buccaneers there as well. And they also have it for college. So college football season's right around the corner. I know I've downloaded it, and I've got all my Kansas State Wildcats lineup of all of the news there as well. So it's a great app. Highly recommend that you download it and make sure you use the promo code Pewter to sign up. We had a comment here about that as well. Let me get to that. From someone who has already, let's see, where was it here? Yep, here it is. Drake Westfall, been catching you guys and sharing you guys on autographs. That's awesome.
Very
we
cool.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Drake. Just want to get to that comment. All right, let's get to today's topic at hand before we kind of run out of time here. We've had a lot of great super chats, a lot of great questions to get to. The passing game was not really great at practice today. Anthony Nelson had an interception on Kyle Trask. So now there's three
scrimmage.
At the line of scrimmage. There's three big men now: Chris Braswell, Logan Hall, Anthony Nelson, that had interceptions in training camp so far. But let's talk about the Bucs depth chart and what we're looking at here, Matt. So the quarterbacks, I think John Wolford's not going to play on Friday for sure. Probably back to the practice squad. He's not had a great camp. Mayfield and Trask are going to be the two quarterbacks, right? Yeah. They're going to have 3 or 4 running backs, depending on how it shakes out. We know that Rashad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker, those are going to be the 3 guys that are going to make this team. Are they going to keep an RB4? Is it going to be Ramon Jefferson, DJ Williams, or is it going to be Chase Edmonds, who has missed the entire training camp with the exception of one day? I think, Matt, they're probably better served to put Chase Edmonds on the practice squad and roll with 3 right now. And also maybe put Ramon Jefferson or DJ Williams, the better of the backs on Friday night on the practice squad as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, no offense to Chase Edmonds, but what has he done to prove that he should be on the team other than being a veteran in the league? He's practiced one time. So yeah, I don't think there's any.
No one's going to pick him up.
The practice squad.
He's not going to get signed anywhere else.
He hasn't played.
Right.
Exactly.
So looking at wide receivers, they're 5 to 6, right? Depending on how it shakes out. We know that Todd Bowles is probably going to be leaning on the running backs to do kick returns. We've seen Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker do that. So Trey Palmer looks like he has the wide receiver 4 position at least locked down. And he's also going to be the punt returner unless there's some calamity on Friday night against the Dolphins. But Evans,
Yes.
Godwin, McMillan, and Palmer, those are the four. Did they keep 5 or did they keep 6? And right now, Cody Thompson is making strides. Raheem Jarrett needs to get healthy soon. Sterling Shepard returned to practice, but still probably not in line to play on Saturday. And like you were saying about Chase Palmer, I'm not sure how you can keep Sterling Shepard, Matt.
You have 16 spots on the practice squad. So the Bucs can kind of maneuver a little bit. If they want to go 8 offense, 8 defense, they can. If they want to go 10 and 6 in one direction or another, I think that's fine. But Cody Thompson is helpful on special teams. And he's been outside of like the top 4 there. He's been the best wide receiver. I mean, Raheem Jarrett has had some nice moments, but he hasn't been healthy.
Right.
And I think you have a better if the question is who can you probably get away with more of stashing on the practice squad, Cody Thompson or Raheem Jarrett, you'd probably be safer putting Thompson on the practice squad and not worrying about another team getting him.
Yeah.
Where Jarrett, there is still a little bit of like, well, he's a second-year player and he was injured last season, where Thompson's been around the block a little bit more.
It's going to be fascinating to see. It's going to be fascinating to see if Cameron Johnson can also
right. So that's I think the bigger question, because he's an electric factory, but he hasn't played that much. So I think Shepard is a lock for the practice squad. I mean, he's still not participating, and he's already banged up. So another team's going to say, why are we going to sign a guy that's quasi banged up, not injured enough to go on IR? And obviously he's up there in age, but he does have that relationship with Baker Mayfield. So I think he's destined for the practice squad. It really just comes down to, are they going to keep 5 wide receivers or 6? Because if they keep 6, then you go, all right, well, between Johnson, Thompson, and Jarrett, just put 1 on the practice squad, and you still have plenty of other room for, to fill out the rest of that practice squad.
Exactly. So, and then rounding out the offense, 3 or 4 tight ends, probably 4 tight ends. O'Keefe is a staple on special teams. And, I'm not a huge O'Keefe fan, but seems like that he might be tight end 4, maybe Devin Culp tight end 3. I think they keep 4, but it's not going to be Tanner Towler, who did return to practice today after, really missing all of training camp with an injury prior to training camp. But Tanner Towler back in the mix for the practice squad. And then David Wells, who just has done nothing to really impress. Offensive line, though, they're going to keep 10. Wirfs, Bredesen, Barton, Malk, Goedeke, Hainsey, Schooley, and Klein seem to be locks. Offensive line 9 and 10. Is it Luke Haggard, who missed the game on Saturday and still wasn't practicing? I think that's going to hurt his chances a little bit. Brandon Walton, this team likes him better than I do, but he's
been on this team for a little bit now.
He's been on the team for a little bit, right? So maybe they keep a guy there. Avery Jones is the 3rd center. Don't know that he's impressed. I think they might end up keeping Walton and Haggard. It would be my guess. I don't think that Lorenz Metz has done enough to earn a roster spot, Matt.
No, I don't even think Lorenz Metz as fascinating as he is, because he's from the international program and he's just gigantic. He just can't move. Like I don't want to be mean, but I honestly don't think Lorenz Metz is even a practice squad player.
I agree. Here's the depth chart for defense, right? You're going to keep 6 defensive linemen: Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, who returned to practice today. That was a really good sign. He returned to practice and was a full participant, so he might play in the game on Friday night. They might hold him out, but that was a good sign that he's back from his minor knee injury that kept him out for about a week. But Greg Gaines, Logan Hall, those 4 are locks. They're going to keep 6 defensive linemen. Is Will Golston going to be one of those guys? I think right now probably that's the case. But Lawal Uigak is a player that flashed a little bit.
Saturday.
Yeah. He flashed a little bit. Ernest Brown has had some moments. CJ Brewer, I thought, had a really good game against the run. So I think that defensive line 5 and 6, these 2 battles will be decided on Friday night against the Dolphins. This team might keep 6 outside linebackers. It's the deepest position according to Todd Bowles said. No doubt. You've got Yaya Diaby, JTS, Nelson, and Braswell. Those 4 are locks. And right now, I think you have to look at Jose Ramirez at number 5 and Marquise Watts number 6. Watts plays all the special teams. So he's a valuable player there. Ramirez is really coming on as a pass rusher. We saw
Right,
that
like if
with
Jose
3
Ramirez
sacks.
has if he has another hat trick game, how do you say, oh well, he had 6 sacks in the preseason,
Right.
6 in his last 2, but
Yeah.
he's not good enough to be on the active roster.
Yeah.
The special teams thing, you wish that he played a little more in that area. But yeah, if he lights it up again, I know the starters are going to play at the beginning, but I don't know how much they're going to play, or
Yeah.
they're not going to play that long. He's got another chance to, if he lights it up, even if he gets 2 sacks, it's
Yeah.
going to be very difficult to say no, he can't make this team. And then also with linebackers, we have Levante David, KJ Britt, Savase Dennis in there. I'd be very surprised if JJ Russell didn't make the team either.
I agree.
Just kind of
Yep.
based on his motor.
Yep.
And what he
Savase
brings.
Dennis returned to practice today wearing the black non-contact jersey. It was good to see. We'll see if he plays on Friday night. I don't think that's going to be the case. But will they keep 5? The fifth one would either be Vi Jones, who's had some moments, or Kalen DeLoach.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to special teams more than anything. And I think they'll end up keeping 5 inside linebackers total. One of those will be on the practice squad. So I think they'll end up keeping 4 on the roster. Defensive backs, they'll keep 9 or 10, probably 10. Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Antoine Winfield, Jordan Whitehead, Tyke Smith, Bryce Hall, Kayvon Merriweather. Those guys seem locks. Then you're looking at 8, 9, and 10. I think Keenan Isaac is probably in the driver's seat, along with Josh Hayes due to special teams. That's 2 more. Is the other one Tavier Thomas? Is it Marcus Banks? What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, it's interesting, too, that Christian Izien didn't play in Saturday night's game. And, Bowles had mentioned that when Bowles was asked about, is he worried about the depth at safety after the Merriweather injury? And he's like, well, no, because Tyke Smith can still play safety and so can Christian Izien.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're kind of preserving Christian Izien makes me think, well, if they're not going to have him play in the game, then, well, I guess you feel good enough about him that he's going to, play with some of the other guys. So I think Izien probably has a spot in there. I think Isaac deserves it. And yeah, I mean, I would have said Funderburk, but he's injured and you can't put an injured guy on there. So yeah, I mean, Rashad Wisdom has had some moments, but he also had his struggles too. So those would kind of be my suggestions.
These last 3 defensive back spots might be the most hotly contested because there's about 5 guys that you could possibly throw in the mix for 3 spots. And this will be decided Friday night. And then, of course, the last one is long snapper. Chase McLaughlin needs a better performance for sure. They're going to keep 3 specialists, the kicker, the punter, Jake Camarda, and then the long snapper is Zach Triner. Is it Eric Deckers? That's going to be decided probably on Friday night as well. So that's what we're looking at in terms of those roster spots. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all shakes out as Joe Elrican, who is one of our Pewter Report TV channel members, says, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Joel. I'm itching for some real football, not going to lie. Yeah, one more preseason game, and then it's on to the real thing, and that's really cool. We've got some really cool stuff lined up for our Pewter Game Day show, which is returning this year. Matt does such a fantastic job with that, and we're splitting it up. We're not going to have a 4-hour block. We're actually going to have a Pewter pregame show, and that's going to be 9:00 every game day morning, especially on Sundays. We'll have a different time for those Thursday and Monday night games as well. We might do them a day before or whatever, but the Pewter pregame show between the Commanders and your Tampa Bay Buccaneers will happen at 9:00 on September 8th. And make sure that you check that out. That'll give you even more time. It'll be a 30-minute live podcast, but it'll be archived. So if you're at church, if you happen to miss the show at 9:00, you can catch it before kickoff, whether it's a 1:00 kickoff or a 4:25 kickoff or even a Sunday night kickoff. We'll have that pregame show done, recorded, and for your listening and viewing pleasure. And then we will have Pewter Game Day, and that's going to be at 4:25 September 8th. We've got some very cool special things in store for Pewter Game Day this year. We're going to go a few minutes over here just to kind of give you all a taste of what you can expect from kind of our heightened Pewter Game Day show, such as maybe when the Buccaneers score a touchdown. or when Chase McLaughlin happens to kick a game-winning field goal. Or when Yaya Diaby gets a sack. Or when Don't Make a Scene, Jamel Dean gets an interception. And finally, when your Tampa Bay Buccaneers get the win.
Those are great. I'm fired up for football. That's goosebump inducing. Even
That's
though
pretty
people
cool.
are making jokes that Jamel Dean's not going to be getting an interception.
Come on, you got to believe, right? You got to believe. Listen, we appreciate, again, all of our Pewter Report TV channel members for signing up. Brian S. says, I would like to become a diamond member. Please let me know where to submit my $100 monthly fee. Brian, you can email me at srpewterreport.com, and we will make sure to set you up with a diamond membership. We don't have it right now, but if you're serious, we will be happy to institute a diamond level membership and come up with some pretty cool perks for that level of membership as well. So greatly appreciate all of our Pewter people, our Pewter Pros, our Pewter Premier members, and our Pewter Platinum members. And maybe Brian will become a Pewter Diamond member with his offer. So that's very generous. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that would be very, very cool. Appreciate all of you Pewter people who are also very, very cool. That's going to do it for us on today's show. If you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. We got plenty of content up right now after speaking to Todd Bowles and Chris Godwin and KJ Britt and Marquise Watts. You can see that on our social media. And of course, our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment as well below as we wrap up the show. Got tons of content coming on our YouTube channel, both for YouTube channel members and for the general public as well. So you're going to want to make sure that you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's going to do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.